This is the Comics Alternative for young readers. Reviews of Hippopotamister and Camp Midnight.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Comics Alternative for Young Readers. I'm Andy.
And I'm Gwen, and we're two people with PhDs talking about comics.
That's right. And on today's podcast, we're going to talk about two new books, Hippopotamister, that's hard for me to say, by John Patrick Glenn, with colors by Kat Caro, followed by Camp Midnight by Stephen T. Siegel and Jason Adam Katzenstein. Plus, we have a bonus feature today.
Sorry.
Gwen, you know that yesterday we had our first library Comic-Con at the Anne Arundel County, Maryland Public Library, where I work. And I was able to talk to several young readers, as well as a few of their parents. And Gwen, I even got to talk to a Ghostbuster.
Oh my gosh, that's good. That's a good friend to have in times of need. So good job
Definitely. There. Oh, thanks. So it was a lot of fun. So we're going to hear from those folks later in the show, and I hope everybody enjoys hearing from that. But before we get into those titles and those Comic-Con interviews, we'd like for everyone to know that this episode of the Comics Alternative for Young Readers is sponsored by Discount Comic Book Service. Go to dcbservice.com for all of your pre-ordering needs. There you'll find DC, Marvel, Image, and Dark Horse titles for 40% off the retail price. Other publishers you'll find 20 to 30% off. And sometimes they have specials that go 45 to 50% off the cover price. And sometimes, Gwen, the discounts get even crazier than that.
Get me my smelling salts. All right. Well, this month, DCBS has Marvel Kids Bundle that includes, here we go, because I love the Marvel titles. You have to take a deep breath. Marvel Universe Avengers Ultron Revolution, number 1, Marvel Universe Guardians of the Galaxy, number 10, and Marvel Universe Ultimate Spider-Man versus the Sinister Six, number 1. And you get all that whole mouthful of comics for under $5 for $4.47, which is 50% off the cover price. Then we also have the DC Kids Bundle, which is a great value. There's Scooby-Doo Team Up number 17 and Scooby-Doo Where Are You number 71 for $2.98. And again, that is 50% off the cover price. Moreover, they have Seagle and Katzenstein's Camp Midnight for $10.19. You save 40% there. And their sister site, In Stock Trades, has Camp Midnight for $9.85, 42% off of the cover price. Not 41, not 43, but 42%. So these are really great values. I mean, if you think about it, for under $20, you could get a bunch of really great comics. And when you do that, be sure to let them know that Andy and I sent you.
That's right. And, you know, Gwen, I think after we talked about these comics that everybody's going to want to just go right out and order both of those. I had a great time with both of those, and I kind of get the impression that you did too. So,
I did. I really enjoyed them.
So definitely take advantage of those huge discounts at DCB Service and In Stock Trades for these two comics and more.
That's right.
And Gwen, you know, it wouldn't be the Comics Alternative without getting a little bit of caffeinated state for our comics. So, you know, we also have another sponsor, and that is Just Coffee Co-op.
That's right. Just Coffee Co-op is great because their coffee is 100% fair trade, shade grown, and organic certified, which I know is very important to many of our listeners and to me too. It's roasted in small batches with no mass production, and it's made to order. There's no minimum order, which is good. So if you like to get your caffeine in drips, that's awesome. They are cooperative, and in addition to the worker-focused nature of the business, they also are socially conscious. They partner with On the Ground to raise money and awareness for sustainable community development in farming regions around the world. Now, if you decide to order coffee, tea, or chocolates with them, when you go to checkout, there'll be a little coupon code and put in comics, COMICS, and you do that at justcoffee.coop. So that's .coop. So when you go there, make your order, and if you type comics into the coupon code, you'll get 10% off your order, plus the shipping is free. So again, be sure to tell them that we sent you.
Yeah, that is a great deal. And you know, Gwen, I made an order a couple of weeks ago from Just Coffee Co-op, and I ordered a blend called Reanimator. Do you remember that movie?
Yes, that's why I was laughing. It's like, okay.
Yeah. And I got it and I thought, this will be fun. Maybe it'll reanimate me. And wow, that coffee is so awesome. I mean, you could be like in a dozing state or almost completely catatonic and drink a cup of that and you are ready to go. I'm telling you, it was great.
So there you go, folks. That sounds like a good recommendation.
That's right. When you need reanimating, Just Coffee Co-op's got you covered.
There we go.
Well, Gwen, in addition to this month's books and the interviews that we're going to have, I wanted to let everybody know that we got a very nice email from Samuel Tier. And Samuel Tier is the writer of Vita, Assembly Required, a book that we looked at way back in October of 2015. Mm-hmm. And we love to get email, and it's always special to get an email from one of the creators of one of the books we've discussed. So I really want to thank Samuel for dropping us a line. And I won't read the entire email, but I did want to share with you and the listeners some of the things that he said. So here's what he says. Hello, Andy and Gwen. I'm the writer of Vita, Assembly Required. I just wanted to reach out to you and thank you for the lovely review of Vita Assembly Required you did back in October of 2015. I hadn't heard of the Comics Alternative podcast, and since then it's become a favorite and one I look forward to listening to on a weekly basis.
Yay!
Yay! I went back and re-listened to your review today, and I think you guys were on point with your review. With this being my first published work, there's definitely some wobble as far as clarity of storytelling with the machine emoji word balloons, and your assessment of the breakneck pace of the story was also spot on. I think if I would have had 10 more pages, the story would have been able to breathe a little better. If there's a second Vita book, and I hope we will have one.
Yeah, I do too.
Hopefully we'll be able to get a few more pages to better pace the story. What I learned from your review, as well as others, is that the reader is your final collaborator. And much like Hey Nodo and Kelly, Hey Nodo's the artist and Kelly the colorist, mm-hmm. who brought their own perspectives and interpretations to the book, so does the reader. This was something I learned in listening to Gwen talk about her own blue-collar background and how it informed her interpretation of the book. So, yay, Gwen.
Yay. I try to be helpful. So.
Yeah, well, I think it was very helpful.
Great.
Samuel goes on to say, I want to thank you for highlighting Kelly's contributions to the book. My editors at Dark Horse had me write up some color notes for Kelly when she came onto the project. I ended up writing a detailed color Bible and laid out the relationships of the characters and how we'd use color to subtly link characters, like the green, orange, both Vita and the Gremlin have. Mm-hmm. But Kelly took that direction, brought in her own perspective, and really just blew our minds with her colors. I can't imagine anyone else coloring the book as well as she did.
Oh, that's great praise.
It is. And, you know, color is, and I know you've brought this up many times about color being such an important aspect, but one that we often overlook. And I guess maybe we kind of take it for granted. But, mm-hmm. you know, so much goes into the creation of the color in so many of these comics.
Right. So true.
And I'll just, here's how Samuel ended. He said, it's been a bit of a struggle for Vita Assembly Required to find its audience. Both of our editors left Dark Horse, so we've lost our biggest cheerleaders at Dark Horse, leaving the promotion of the book to myself. And he mentions that Hionodo is a really, really shy person and isn't really comfortable with doing a lot of promotion like that. So I wanted to be sure that I personally thanked everyone who helped get the word out about Vita Assembly Required. So again, I wanted to thank you for the review. Obviously, it was nice publicity for the book, but it was also formative in my understanding of the roles that readers play in comics and informed how I interact with reviewers going forward. Thanks again. I'll definitely keep listening. Samuel Tier.
Wow, that's great. I mean, it's great that he got back to us in that way, and I'm glad that our review could be of help to him. And I just want to reiterate to our listeners what an amazing comic that really is. You know, we've almost been doing this a year, Andy. I mean, we're pretty close. August will be our year anniversary for doing these podcasts, and Vita has stuck in my mind ever since I first read it, and I found myself bringing it up to other people, especially kids who are interested in sort of ideas of robots and ethics. It's really a beautiful text to look at as well. It's the color is amazing in it. So, you know, I'd really just encourage our readers to check it out. It's a really great book.
It really is. And if you've missed that podcast, again, it was the October 2015 edition of the Young Readers episode of the Comics Alternative. And we'll put a link in the show notes also if you want to go back and take a look at that. And yeah, we highly encourage you to take a look at that book. As Samuel said, you know, when you, and Gwen, you and I were talking about this a little bit before we went on mic, that when you do lose your editor or editors, two of them in this case, it's really, really hard to keep that momentum for the book going.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think also, I just have to say this, you know, I work in two fields, children's literature and comic studies, where new publications are coming out every week, obviously, for comics, and it's 5,000 books a year for children's lit that are new. Wow. And, you know, it's more than that for comics, and it's easy for a really great title to sometimes, you know, get a big splash when it first comes out, but you have to keep that sustained. That can be a real challenge. So, you know, we try to do that a little bit with our year-end shows. I know that's one way that we can remind people of really great books that have been published during the year. But we're only two people, and we do maybe 2 to 3 comics per show. That's only so many comics we can give exposure to out of the thousands that are coming out, many of which are really excellent. So just a real shout out to Vita Assembly Required. It's really a great book. So
yeah, it really is. And Samuel, thank you again for your email. And, you know, we certainly wish you the best of luck with continuing to promote Vita Assembly Required. And if there are other Vita books, which we certainly hope, we look forward to those too.
Absolutely.
Well, Gwen, are you ready to jump into the 2 books that we have to discuss for today?
I am, and I have to say that when we first talked about doing Hippopotamister, I couldn't say Hippopotamister. Now I can completely say Hippopotamister, like 3 times fast even if I wanted to, because I've spent the last month practicing Hippopotamister. So I am ready.
I don't think I can say it even once. Well, so would you like to introduce the book for us, since you've had some good practice on saying Hippopotamister?
Sure. This is a beautiful children's comic for young readers, and it's by John Patrick Green with colors by Kat Caro. It's come out from First Second Books. I believe it's May 10th was its release date, and it's quite beautiful. John Patrick Green, this is his first solo effort, but up to this point, he's done a lot of collaborative work, especially with his good friend Dave Roman. They've done a really great comic called Teen Boat. And the tagline for it is, "The angst of being a teen, the thrill of being a boat." So you already get a sense that John Patrick Green has a delightful sense of humor, which he does. He's done a great deal of work for Disney Adventures magazine. He's the co-creator and illustrator of the graphic novel series Jack's Epoch, and that's Jax Epoch. It actually has a longer title. Whoops, sorry about that. Jack's Epoch and the Quick and Forbidden. And then Teen Boat, as I mentioned before. He's worked as a writer, illustrator, and designer on Nickelodeon magazine, DreamWorks, for Scholastic Graphics. So in other words, this is someone who, since graduating from the School of Visual Arts with a degree in graphic design, has been extremely busy. But this is his first solo effort, and it is really an amazing text. I should say that one thing, we'll be talking about this text a little bit today, but one thing I noticed, because I've read it about 5 or 6 times now, is every time I've read through it, there are new details that I missed the first time around. So it's one of those books that if you buy it, especially if you plan to read it with a child, you're going to find that it holds up well on multiple readings, and that you'll continue to discover little nuances, little details that help to illuminate the overarching story. So it's one of those texts that has lots of little hidden gems to it. I'll give a brief description of the action, and then Andy, I'd love to hear what you think about it, because I know you're really fond of this book. Mm-hmm. Basically, it's set in a zoo in an urban area, and it's a zoo that has been let go. Basically, it's run down, so the animals are unkempt. The walrus's teeth need brushed. The lion's mane is all messed up, and no one is coming to the zoo. The displays are all broken down, and there are 2 friends whose little habitats are next to each other. One is a hippo, and the other is Red Panda. And one day, Red Panda decides, you know what, he's had it, and he leaves. And he says, I'm going to go out and try my luck living with humans. And from time to time, he comes back to the zoo to tell Hippo about all the interesting jobs that he has had. And the story really starts to take off when Hippo decides that maybe he too should join the outside world and perhaps take on a job. And so the story follows the adventures of Red Panda and Hippo as they take on a number of different occupations. So it's one of those texts where it introduces very young readers to sort of the sort of spectrum of employment opportunities that adults will carry out. But for older readers, there's an interesting sort of sub-story here about Hippo finding himself, who he really is, his own destiny, not following others, but really standing up for who he is and what he does well. So I think that varying ages would enjoy reading this comic. There's something for the very youngest readers, but I think for even middle grade readers would probably find this to be a very amusing text, and I think parents would love reading it to kids. It's one of those books that you wouldn't roll your eyes if your kid wants to hear it for the 20th time. At least I don't think so.
Yeah. And I think they're going to want to hear it for the 20th time. I mean, it's such a wonderful book. And I guess, Gwen, did we mention that Hippopotamister is a hippopotamus?
Yes.
But Red Panda is not a red panda. He looks like a raccoon and a fox.
No, he's a red panda.
Is he a red panda?
There's such a thing as red pandas. I looked them up, and I have a friend who really loves red pandas, it turns out.
Well, my ignorance is certainly showing here.
Well, no, it's not. It's just, look, it's fine. And now you're making me nervous, but now I'm like, this is why we have an iPad. But seriously, I have a friend who apparently, when I just, in passing, mentioned on Facebook that we were going to be talking about this book, and I said, and there's a red panda. She sent me like tons of instant messages with red pandas. But now I'm like totally paranoid that I'm wrong and that we're both delusional.
No, you're right.
Oh no, there's red pandas.
I learned something about that today.
Okay, you did. There you go. Yeah. And they're really cute. They stick their little tongues out, so they're adorable. So there really is a red panda, and there is obviously really hippos, and I guess maybe we can talk a little bit about the transition that Hippo goes through from being just Hippo to Hippopotamister.
Yeah, I do want to talk about that, but I think you're absolutely on target about the book working for so many different types of readers. And one of the things that struck me is the book is so visually engaging that even the very youngest reader, if you were reading this to a child that is a pre-reader, the visuals are so strong that you really don't even need the words. You can visually tell the story, and you can just kind of go through like we do with very, very young kids, sometimes at the library, and say, what do you think's happening here? What's going on? Even though they might not be able to read all of the words, visually this story is so strong. But like you said, you can keep going back to it, because as kids get older, they'll understand some of those little hidden gems that you talked about that are so funny and that are so cute and so adorable.
Yeah, it's funny too, because even the end papers on our copy have important details. The first set show you the zoo when everything is run down, and the second set show you the zoo when everything has been cleaned up at the end. And it's interesting because the whole world that Green creates is really very much his own signature. He has a very distinct drawing style, but the spirit of it reminds me a lot of the Richard Scarry books I liked so much when I was a kid. Because I not only did I love the animals and the way that they interacted and how cute they looked in their little Richard Scarry outfits or whatever, but I just loved looking at the panorama pages where you'd see all of the characters going about their daily business, etc. And you get a lot of that in this book as well. So it's like you say, even a very, very young reader would get a lot out of just playing around with looking at the images, and you could do a lot of good ask questions about what's going on here type stuff with a kid.
Yeah, I think so too. And I like what you were talking about getting the hippopotamus to become Hippopotamister. And as you said, he and Red Panda go through a lot of different jobs because things are getting pretty bad at the zoo, and they both figure out, this is not the place for us. We need to get out and do something. And Red Panda actually figures it out before Hippopotamister. And when they start going out together to get jobs, it really does not turn out well. But what's funny, and one of the things that I loved about this book, is that Red Panda usually makes a complete disaster of every job that he's involved in, and Hippopotamister actually does a pretty good job. And one of my favorites is when they go to the styling salon.
Yes.
And Hippopotamister gets this guy that he says, I just want something new. I want a new look. And he gives him a hippo. I don't even know if I can say
Hippopompadour. Hippopompadour.
and it's great, and that's exactly what the guy gets. He gets this really cool pompadour, and he is so excited. And Hippopotamister just he's delighted because he's done something good. He's like I can be good at this job, but without giving too much away, Red Panda is not so good. And it just goes to show kids and adults that sometimes happy accidents can happen in life, and they can turn out to be really, really great.
Mm-hmm. And there's a pattern that develops. So if you're thinking about this as a young reader text, where every job they try out, the same thing happens. When things don't work out, Hippopotamister is always really optimistic and says to Red Panda, tomorrow you'll find us another really good job. And that's really the sort of repetition that gets you through all these different jobs. Each of them have really funny moments. So the styling one really stands out, I think, mainly because I'm very desperate for this hairstyle to take off, because I would love to see people walking towards me with a big poof of hippo on their head. It would be awesome. And I can think of other animals it would be really good with. So there's that. But, it's interesting because throughout the text, Red Panda not only is very self-confident, but he believes that he's the font of all sorts of good advice. Mm-hmm. But it turns out that even though he's very modest and very shy, Hippopotamister has a lot of hidden talents that come out in these different jobs.
Yeah, he does. And I think one of the great things about this book is it teaches kids that, you really should try a lot of different things in life to see what you're good at. And as you know, Gwen, and some listeners know, I used to be a band director. And, I was always delighted to have kids that stayed in band for 2, 3, 4, 5 years. But I also enjoyed seeing kids take band, take art, take strings, do sports, because, it's kind of a time of exploration to see, what you're good at, trying a lot of different things. And a lot of the times the things that we experience as kids, and maybe even as adults too, that we like, and sometimes we do those things with our friends. And sometimes during the friendship, we discover that maybe they're better at some things than we are, or we're better at some things than they are. And that can be a tough lesson, but Green really, really handles this with great sensitivity.
Yes, he does. And I'll say that there's all sorts of wonderful touches. Sometimes the images are very minimalistic. There's a point in the text where Hippopotamister is really trying to decide what to do next. And Green shows this in 4 very simple panels that show Hippopotamister thinking, coming up with a great idea. And then in the final panel, he's absent. And you know that he's gone because he has come up with a solution to his problem and he's off and he's going to go handle it. It's a very sweet, very, very simple set of panels. But then there are other pages that are super complicated and funny. And one of them is when they're about to audition to become sous chefs. And they go to this place called it's so cute. It's called the Trattoria della Bestia, which is, this is great for parents, right? Because they can really enjoy that it's the restaurant of the beasts or the beast restaurant. But then what's even funnier is in one of the panels, a little rat runs right under the sign. It's typical New York alleyway, right? There's your little, there's your little beasts. And so there's just all these little intricate details in some of the illustrations, and then others are very simple and streamlined. So I really like that that back and forth between the complex and the simple that occurs in this book too.
Yeah, I like it too, and it's funny, as an adult reading the book and as a kid reading the book, you might have two slightly different experiences. But I wonder, I almost wish I could read this with the eyes of a child, because they do take these certain unusual jobs. And they end up being significant at the end. Again, I don't want to give too much away, but again, I think, isn't life like that a lot of times? We find ourselves in unexpected situations, and then later on we find out, oh, maybe this is why, I went through this, so that I could do something else for someone. And
I will say that, at the end, one of the things that is really sort of sweet is you see that many of the things that Hippopotamister has learned on all these jobs, all those things come in handy to him later. And so it sort of also sends the message, sometimes you're asked to learn something or to do something that you don't really feel is very significant, or you don't understand the significance of it, but time can pass and suddenly you'll say, hey, that was really useful. Like a liberal arts education, might I say. It was funny. I was reading this as a professor of the humanities, and I was thinking about that. A lot of times students will sort of complain about needing to take courses outside of their areas of interest. And we're always saying to them, oh, but you'll find that later in life this will come in handy. And in a way, that's what's happened in this text, because Red Panda and Hippopotamister both have talents that they've picked up elsewhere that they're able to use at the end of the text and in really positive ways to help others as well as themselves.
That's right. And, if you never try things like that, you never know what you're missing out on. So, there's so many great lessons in this.
Hey, do you want to talk about the color for a minute?
Yeah, the color is just amazing. And again, this is one of those books that, for a very, very young reader that may not be quite ready for all the words, just the colors are just so inviting and so vibrant, and the different shadings. When they go to, for instance, when they go to the salon, and there's a big splash page where Red Panda says, they walk in and Red Panda says, this is going to be the best job ever. Of course, he says that like every fourth or fifth page. But there's so many colors. I mean, I'm looking at that page, and the chairs are one shade of purple. The floor is a kind of a shade of pink, maybe fuchsia. And what's so great about this is you can see that there are little spots on the floor. It's kind of worn from where people are walking, and that's a different color. And then as you get deeper into the shop, that's a slightly different color. And then there are people in the stylist chairs, and their hair. I mean, it's not just one woman or one man that's got red hair and a woman that's got blonde hair. There's so much variation to it. This is a really, really rich use of color in this entire book.
Yeah, it really is. It's beautiful to look at, and it sets the mood because there are some very exciting times in this text. There are some more somber times, and the color, I think, really plays a big assist in making it clear. If a kid were, as you were suggesting, maybe not reading yet, they could still sort of pick up from the color differentiation that this is a different kind of scene than the one that I saw before. So it's really very well done, and I love this book, and I love saying Hippopotamister. I do. It sounds like some great 1940s jazz lyric, Hippopotamister, Hippopotamister. You know, so I highly recommend it. It's a wonderful text.
It is, and I have to practice saying it as much as you have. Because
well, it's there forever. And hey, you know, I have trouble with pronunciation in case everybody hasn't already noticed that through these podcasts. And so when I get something and I've actually managed it and it has that many consonants in it, I'm going to play it for all I can. So I will be talking a lot about Hippopotamister.
All right. Well, I don't blame you one bit. And I do want to point out one other thing that is, as you mentioned in the back of this book, there is a super cool section about how to draw Hippopotamister and Red Panda. And you know, Gwen, a lot of times, I remember when I was a kid, and sometimes you wouldn't see this very often, but sometimes you'd see this in the back of a book, like how to draw Spider-Man or something like that.
Right.
And the first part of it is really easy. You make these ovals and these circles, and then maybe there's one other scene that you add a few things to it. And then like the next panel is like this finished, super professional Spider-Man. And I remember getting so frustrated at those pages because I was like, I can do the first two things, but how do you get to the finished product? This book does a really good job of providing examples for young budding artists how to do that. And I think it will give them a lot of confidence to draw their own pictures of these characters or other characters too.
Right, and to just pick up those principles, because a red panda and hippopotamus are very different animals, and so there are different techniques. And Green even says, you know, here with this, I think he has you draw the hippo first and then the red panda, and he says, okay, so here you have to do this differently. And so he's very specific about the skills that you need to achieve certain effects. I thought it was a really nice addition. I'm so glad you remembered to mention that because I had forgotten, but it's really a nice part of the book.
Yeah, this is. I think we both highly recommend this one.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's move on to our second book, which is Camp Midnight by Stephen T. Siegel and Jason Adam Katzenstein. This comes to us from Image Comics, and Image is calling this an all-ages comic. I kind of feel, Gwen, like this might be better suited to like the middle grade or slightly pre-middle grade. What did you think?
Yeah, I agree. I think that not only based upon the characters' ages and interactions, but also based upon sort of what happens in the story. That said, there are a lot of very amusing popular culture references in it that I think would be a lot of fun for teen readers. But, you know, I thought it was absolutely appropriate for middle grade readers. There is an incident of skinny dipping, which is hysterical and so funny, but that's so real to that age group anyway. So
it is, and it's so perfect for this book. It's not offensive in the least.
Well, it's not what you're thinking, dear listener. It's something else. But so yeah, I would say that probably for our listeners who are in middle grade or early high school, this would be a perfect book. Even maybe late elementary.
Yeah. Well, here's a little something about it, and this is from the back of the book, kind of a brief description. It says, there's something creepy creeping around Camp Midnight. Not wanting to please her step monster, reluctant camper Sky is dead set on not fitting in when she's sent away to summer camp. Luckily, that won't be a problem as Sky accidentally boarded the wrong bus, and everyone at Camp Midnight, with the exception of fellow camper and fast friend Mia, is a full-fledged monster. Can Sky keep her secret identity as a human hidden until she catches her bus for home? And if Sky and Mia fear monsters, what exactly is it that monsters are afraid of?
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun. And Gwen, this is a very, very different type of book than Hippopotamister, but there are a lot of similarities to both books, which maybe we can explore a little bit more as we start talking about it. But what did you think?
Well, first of all, if we're going to talk about this book, we need to talk about color.
Yes.
Because
oh my goodness,
oh my gosh, the color is amazing, and it when you talk about color conveying emotion, this book should be next to that in the dictionary or the encyclopedia or the wiki, because it's such intense color, and every single panel is deeply shaded, and it's just a stunning book to look at, and it's very stylistically adventurous. So it's also, you really have to be on your toes as a reader. There's a lot to keep up with. There's a lot of subtlety, but there's also just some amazing effects that both Siegel and Katzenstein bring to this text, that they're both so talented. They obviously love working together, and they've created an incredible, beautiful comic.
Gwen, I think this is clearly a labor of love in not only writing and art, but especially, as you said, color, because it is so vibrant, and color is such an important component to this, not only of making the book more attractive, but depending on what is going on in the story. I mean, there are certain scenes where anger is portrayed as with red. I mean, some things that we might think is obvious things, and nighttime being portrayed as blue, but there's so many other things that are so subtle and so important. This book is colored way better than it had to be, and for something like that, I really like you do too, just sit up and take notice, and it's really a wonderful book, and I mean that as full of wonder in the way that it's colored.
Absolutely. You know, maybe we could talk for a minute about the process that these two guys followed to write the comic. And they just did a recent interview with comicbook.com, and they talked about their process. And I'd like to read just a little bit of what they said about how they work together, because I think it will give us a deeper understanding of their collaboration here.
Yeah, definitely.
So Jason Katzenstein said, Steve had a treatment that I read and loved. We worked closely on character designs and building the visual world, and then Steve would send me about 60 script pages at a time, and I'd draw them while he was working on the next batch. This was an exciting way to work because Steve would respond to what I was drawing in his next batch of pages. There'd be a note saying something like, "Remember what you did 10 pages ago? Draw something like that." And so, Steve Siegel said, and even before we got to the bigger 60-page chunks, Jason would come to my weekly writers group, and we would work on about 7 pages per week with a lot of back and forth. So you can see that, sometimes collaborators will work with each other, and it can be a very effective collaboration, but sometimes they don't even speak with each other. That's actually quite common in picture book creation, where you'll have, artists who are hired to illustrate a script, and especially if the author is new to publishing, they may not have a lot of say even as to what that looks like. Whereas here you can see that, Siegel and Katzenstein were working extremely closely on this, and it truly is their shared vision. And that's important because, like I was saying before, this is a very highly stylized comic, and you really can see a lot of interesting repetition occurring visually throughout the comic, and it's nice to know that that was really intentional, and it was the product of both of their collaboration,
Yeah, and I agree. This is such an important, this part of collaboration is so important, and it has changed so much, I guess, in the computer age, because long ago when writers and artists were creating comic books, I mean they were sometimes in the same room, usually on the same floor of the same office in some of the bigger places like Marvel and DC. So you had a lot of that hands-on collaboration going on, but in the computer age, this is different. But you can tell these guys, they're on each other's wavelength, definitely, because otherwise this wouldn't work so well. Not this pervasively. I mean, it's again, like you said, these guys have really spent some time getting to know each other, getting to know each other's strengths and weaknesses, styles, habits, and it really comes across in the book.
And I guess we should say, first of all, that this book has a lot of humor in it. And a lot of it is middle grade humor that I think a lot of our listeners will really enjoy. But there are things stuck in there for adults too. And one of the first instances of this takes place very early on in the book, because basically the protagonist, Sky Sullivan, is being sort of having a very understandably negative reaction to her parents' divorce. And her mom is a physician who has to leave the country to do work and is dropping Skye off to spend time with her her father and her new stepmother, who, by the way, is awesome. She's like Cruella de Vil. She's such a hoot. But Skye's mom, in passing, Skye's saying, "Why can't I go with you on your work that you're going to do?" And her mom says, "It's doctors without borders, not teenagers without boundaries." And, it's always pretty good when I start laughing out loud 2 pages into the comic. So, just so you can get a sense for first of all, this is very typical of the awesome humor in this text, but also you can see where a kid might read that one way, but an adult or even sort of an older teen is going to read it in not entirely different way, but they're going to get a level of humor there, I think, that's for us, shall I say. So.
Yeah, there are so many of those moments, Gwen, and I really like that one too. I did laugh out loud when I was reading it, and I was at work, and everybody was turning and saying, "What's wrong with you?" But another one I really, really like is also pretty early in the book, and Skye is she can't get along with anybody, especially her new stepmother, and there's a page early on where Skye is afraid that she might miss her bus to camp, and she says, "Oh no, I can't miss my bus. I'll be devastated." And she's actually holding an Oscar statuette.
Yeah,
which
I know.
is like, just and kids might not get it, but it's obvious to us that this is such a performance. This is Oscar worthy, that her acting is so over the top. But that was just one of those wonderful moments too.
Yeah, and just also, as with Hippopotamister, there are little details throughout the text. Just one as an example that I picked up is early on, and this is very common in artifacts that are created for teenagers and tweens. There's always this scene where you go into the character's bedroom and you get a sense for who they are based on what they have on the walls or what books are lying about or if everything's neat or not so tidy. Well, in Skye's bedroom, she opens up her dresser drawer and there's all sorts of stuff in there. But one of the things that's prominently displayed is a magazine, and it's Rookie magazine. And Andy, are you familiar with Rookie?
No, I'm not.
Okay, so this is a real nod to something that I think is important about this book, because this is a text written by 2 men who are basically focalizing the text through a teenage girl, and it shows me that they've done their homework. Rookie magazine is the brainchild of this absolutely brilliant young woman whose name I forgot to write down, but I think it's Tally is her first name. And she was obsessed with fashion as a small child and began to write her own fashion commentary online. And she was so good at it that she ended up sort of making waves in the fashion world and went on to come up with this amazing magazine for young women. Well, not just for young women, for young people, called Rookie, which is a great title. It gives you a sense for her understanding of the sort of what the subject position of a young kid, right? You're a rookie. You're not a pro yet. And just to have that there, that artifact there in the text, that's real street cred with a kid, And so I was so excited to see that. And of course, now I'm going to have to look it up because I know I have her name wrong. And I am anything if not supportive of her. So I want to make sure that I get her name down correctly. Because one of the things that she's done is she's involved other young people in all of the little industries and things that she is setting up. So she's quite a force. She's an entrepreneur at it's Tavi is her name. Her name is Tavi Gevinson. And so it's Rookie magazine. So if any of you young people are listening, go ahead and get Rookie. It's a great magazine. But anyway, there you go. So
cool.
But it's just neat to see those sort of things in the text.
Yeah. There's so many things that anybody that's been reading comics for several years, like the two of us, like the Kirby hand when he makes an appearance, that was just great. I love that. So many things in there. But the main reason you want to read it is because the story is so great, and this could have been so overdone, or it could have gotten really tired because we've all had either experiences at camp, or we know people that have, or we have kids that have, and the sometimes awful things that go to camp. You go to camp and you feel like you don't belong. You feel like you're an outsider, that everybody else knows each other except you. And the way that this is played, the monsters are played metaphorically in a lot of ways, reflects some of the things that kids are obviously going through. It's a really hard time for kids. And the camp situation kind of brings that out. It just kind of multiplies or exaggerates the problem that you're already having at home on this huge level. Mm-hmm. And they handle that part really, really well, which, on its own, that would be fine. But with the combination, like you said, of the humor that's put in here, the way the art is detailed, the color, there's just so much going on. And like Hippopotamister, this is a book that can be read and reread.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Read it. You can read it for the adventure. You can read it for the comedy. You can read it for the situations that you can identify with. So many of us have had stepmothers, stepfathers. The whole thing. There's so much depth to this book that I would hate for people to think on the surface, oh, this is just going to be like a horror book for kids, or this is just a book for kids. It's not. It really goes way beyond that.
And it engages in a lot of important debates that are occurring in our culture about issues of acceptance, issues of coming out, and the anxieties that attend that. And it also deals with, I think, young kids learning how important and influential language can be. Because, we live in a society where, sadly, especially in the media, people are very careless with language. And that's a problem. And I think that the authors of this text are aware of that. And they have one of the characters, in fact, talk about labeling and what that can do to someone's individuality when we just throw people into a category and make assumptions about them. And yes, of course, we know John Hughes is the king of that in his movies, and I get that. But actually, this text does it in a way that is far less moralizing and far more upfront about the hurtfulness that can ensue if someone is careless with their labeling of someone else, or just isn't willing to understand that in many ways that buries individuality.
Yeah, and one of the great things about this book is, and it is so relevant to, like you said, what's going on today, is all of the monsters at camp. They see Sky and they're like, okay, what are you really? What's your? It's almost like, what's your monster power? And I won't give anything away, but there's that constant pressure to define yourself, or for them to label you. They all want to see what you're about so they can put a label on you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that Sky resists it for a lot of reasons, and but in the end, she also comes to understand that she hasn't really been very truthful even with herself about who she really is as a person, and it's through this camp experience that she gets a better sense of that.
And I really like the relationship she has with Mia, who is also at the camp. That's one of the most interesting aspects of this book. And because, again, those of us who went to summer camps, or even just something that maybe isn't as intense as summer camp, a lot of times we'll meet with somebody or we'll be attracted to somebody and we start learning about them. And it's almost like, I don't want to learn too much about you because you might hurt me, you might disappoint me, those types of things. But that aspect of the book is handled so well, and again, with such sensitivity.
Yeah, I agree. And so it's really got everything going for it. It's funny, it's beautifully drawn, the color is amazing, the actual comics workmanship is excellent, and like Hippopotamister, there's an important message here about friendship, what it means to be loyal to someone, what it means to help that person understand their true nature, or to be comfortable with themselves, that we can really play a role in other people's lives in that way.
Well, Gwen, these are two books that I think we can both highly recommend. And before we get to the Comic-Con interviews that we're going to have in just a moment, I think we can also highly recommend the great coffee, tea, and chocolate products available from one of our sponsors, Just Coffee Co-op. And you can find them at justcoffee.coop. And when you go there, check out. And when you check out, you can use our coupon code COMICS for a 10% off your order. And the podcast gets a couple of pennies from that. And shipping is free. Well, Gwen, would you like to hear from some of the wonderful young ladies and gentlemen I spoke to at the con?
Absolutely.
Okay, let's hear what they have to say. And this is Andy for the Young Readers edition of the Comics Alternative. Really glad to be here at the Comic-Con, the Anne Arundel County Public Library Comic-Con. And we got a lot of people here that I'd like to talk to. And can you just give us your first name?
David.
David? How do you like it so far?
It's great.
Yeah? Can you tell me, what's your favorite comic book?
Well, my favorite comic book is actually one that I made called Space Kids.
Ooh, awesome.
Recently.
Tell us about it.
Well, it's where these kids go into space, and they're on a mission investigating space and seeing what it's like, and then when they're older, they're going to come back down at some point, but haven't gotten there. I've only made my first comic.
Well, that is so cool. Now, is this going to be a comic that you put on the web, or a print comic, or both?
A print.
Print comic? Cool. When do you think we might see it?
I don't know, actually.
Well, that is awesome. What's your favorite comic that other people make?
Probably one of those Skylander comics.
Okay, cool.
It's not a big thing now, but it's real.
So is that what you want to do when you grow up, is to be a comics creator?
I actually want to be an author.
An author? A comics author or regular books? Cool. So who's your favorite author right now?
Probably Jeffrey Brown.
Jeffrey Brown's pretty awesome. Can't argue with that.
I wrote him a note about how I liked his books.
Oh, that's cool. Did he write you back? What did he say?
I forgot. It was a short note, but I kind of forgot.
Well, that's pretty awesome. Hey, listen, thanks for talking with us with the Comics Alternative today.
You're welcome.
So, who do we have here?
Alger.
Alger, how you doing today?
Good.
Good. You having a good time?
Yes.
Yeah. I see you got a Captain America shirt on, and I have a Captain America shirt on. Who's your favorite comic book character?
Robin.
Robin. Okay. Why is Robin your favorite?
Because he's cool.
He is pretty cool. What other comics do you like to read?
Tiny Titans.
That's pretty awesome. Do you like Teen Titans Go or Tiny Titans Go?
Yes.
That's pretty cool. All right. Anything else you'd like to tell people?
No.
Okay. Thanks for talking with me. Okay. Who's next?
James.
James, what's your favorite comic book?
Deadpool.
Deadpool. Wow, that is awesome. Why is Deadpool your favorite?
I don't really have a reason.
Oh, that's okay. You don't have to have a reason. So, what other comics do you like?
I don't really know.
Well, I'll tell you what. If you could be any superhero in the world, who would you be?
Wolverine.
Oh, that would be awesome. It would be awesome to have those claws, wouldn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. Well, listen, thanks for talking with me today. And who do we have here?
Robert.
Robert. What's your favorite comic book?
Deadpool again.
Deadpool, too? Well, if you could be any comic book character in the world, who would you be?
Red Hulk.
Oh, good choice. Why would you pick Red Hulk?
Because he's super strong and he can never be hurt.
Good reasons. All right. Thanks for talking with us today, man.
Thanks.
Hi, and who do we have here?
Wolverine.
Wolverine. Well, Wolverine, what's your real name? Your first name?
Just your first name. Hudson.
Okay, awesome. Are you having a good time today?
Yes.
Yeah? And I bet, since you're wearing an awesome Wolverine costume, that Wolverine is your favorite character?
Yes.
Yeah? What other comic books do you like?
X-Men.
Ooh, X-Men. That's awesome. Who's your second favorite character? Wolverine is your first.
Spider-Man.
Spider-Man. That's awesome. Listen, thank you for talking with me today.
You're welcome.
Okay, who's next?
I do.
Okay, who do we have here?
Yeah.
Okay, so what's your favorite comic book?
I guess Spider-Man.
Spider-Man is pretty awesome. So if you could have any superpower in the world, what would you want?
Spiderwebs.
That's pretty cool. So are you having a good time today?
Yes.
Awesome. Thanks for talking to me today.
You're welcome.
Okay. And who do we have here?
Angeli.
Hi. So now you told me that you're not a big comic book person.
I am, but I don't have a favorite.
You don't have a favorite? What about if you could have a superpower? Which would you like?
Probably webs that could shoot.
Oh, yeah? Okay, cool. Well, anything else you'd like to tell us today? Okay, well, thanks for talking with me today.
It's a very sci-fi looking reporter out there. It's really awesome.
I've been interviewing a lot of kids about what they're reading and their favorite comic books, but I ran into a real live Ghostbuster, so I wanted to talk to him a little bit. How you doing?
Doing well. How are you today?
Good. How's the convention so far?
Having a blast. I live about 2 miles away. I actually didn't see the thing until someone sent me a message last night, and of course had to come out.
Awesome. Well, that's a great costume. I wish this was like a video component of the podcast, but it is a really, really cool costume. How did you get into being a Ghostbuster?
I've been a lifelong fan, and a couple years ago I ran into someone who had the full getup, was in another costume, and jaw hit the floor, and it's like, I don't know how, but that needs to happen. So about a year after that I started the build, and my brother, my wife, and I all built them, and took about a year, and we've been running around. We have a group of about 10 of us now in the Baltimore area that all are starting to try to do some charity work as Ghostbusters.
Well, that's awesome. It's great to see. Yeah, it's great to see the charity work, especially with, of course, the Star Wars have been going for a long time. But it's great that the Ghostbusters are involved too. That's
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Yeah, and much like Lucasfilm and eventually now Disney has embraced the Star Wars fandom, Sony's really embracing Ghostbusters now. They've started reaching out to all the chapters in every city and trying to help get them out to events that, we would have been at anyway, but has that Sony imprimatur on it. It's nice.
So if somebody wanted to contact a chapter, how would they do that?
There isn't a central thing like the 501st has, but right now we're on Facebook. It's Charm City Ghostbusters on Facebook. Get in touch with us there if there's an event that anyone wants to do. And a lot of the cities just, it's the Denver Ghostbusters or the, New Jersey Ghostbusters. You search a city or a state and you'll eventually find someone, and we're all always eager to do any events we can.
Well, that's great. Hey, listen, thanks for talking with us today.
Absolutely.
Okay, and who do I have here?
I'm Cal.
Cal, nice to talk to you today. Are you having a good time?
I am.
Cool. What type of comics do you like to read?
I like a lot of Batman stuff. I'm really a big fan of what Scott Snyder's done on the new 52 Batman. I'm excited for a lot of the stuff coming up, like Rebirth.
Yeah, Rebirth looks really, really cool. So what is it about the way Snyder writes that you really like?
I just feel like he really gets the characters. Like, yeah.
What other titles do you like?
I recently read Crisis on Infinite Earths, which is just, that may be my favorite comic of all time.
It's pretty mind-blowing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Cool. Well, listen, thanks so much for talking with us today.
No problem.
Okay, and actually I might ask you to remove your mask so we can get a little bit better volume.
All right, if you're sure.
Yeah. So what's your name?
Sans the Skeleton.
Hi, how you doing?
Pretty good.
So how do you like the convention so far?
It's pretty good. This is the first one I've been to.
Yeah, it's the first one we've had here, so that's cool. So what kind of comics do you like?
Well, I mostly like anime and manga and stuff like that.
Do you have a favorite title?
Not really. I like them all.
Yeah? So what was like the first manga that you discovered that you thought this is really cool?
It's probably cliche, but Sailor Moon.
Okay, cool. Excellent. So what's your name?
Marshall the Trash Can.
So what kind of books do you read?
I kind of like her manga and anime stuff.
Is there any favorite that you have?
And my favorite type of... I also like comic books, and Deadpool is one of my favorite.
I'm getting that a lot today.
Yeah.
So what other books do you like?
I like audiobooks.
Well, that's okay.
I don't have to read, I can just listen.
No, that's cool. All right. Well, thanks for talking with us. And who do we have here?
I'm Sloan.
Sloan, how you doing?
I'm good.
So tell me what kind of comics you like.
I like anime and manga, and I am trash of anime. Yeah.
So what was it that attracted you to it?
A couple years ago, my friend, she told me about this anime called Fairy Tail, and then I watched all of the episodes in the next couple days.
Is there anything that's coming out that you're looking forward to?
Not really. I'm just trying to look for a new anime now.
Cool. Well, listen, thanks for talking with me. Hi, who do we have here?
Sora from Kingdom Hearts.
Hi, how you doing?
Doing good.
Good. Are you liking it so far?
Yeah.
Very cool costume that you got.
Thank you.
So what type of comics and graphic novels do you like?
I usually like anime and manga, that kind of stuff.
Do you have a favorite?
Yeah, it's Dot Hack. It's an anime manga, but it's written like a chapter book.
Okay, I'm not familiar with that one. Can you tell us like the premise?
So I think in one of them, in Dot Hack Infection, so you were playing a video game with your friend, and the thing that there's a virus in the game that created itself. So when you guys are playing the game, your friend's character and your friend himself goes into a coma because the virus got him, and you have to stay in the game to save him.
Wow, I have not heard of that, but it sounds really cool.
Yeah, it is. It's kind of like Sword Art Online. In fact, I think they have the same plot line.
Cool. Wow, that's awesome. Well, what else are you enjoying lately?
I've been drawing a lot.
Just for fun, or maybe with the intent of publishing?
With the intent of publishing. I've been trying to do commissions, but nobody ever commissions me.
Oh, what about on the web?
That's what I'm trying to do.
Yeah. Well, best of luck with you, and thanks again for talking with us.
Right. Thank you.
And I thought it would be really cool to talk to some parents at the Comic-Con. And sir, what do you think about the Comic-Con so far?
Well, so far it's moved up to the expectations that a community can put together. Looks like we got a lot of participation here, and the kids have enjoyed it, and they particularly like the Star Wars. Obviously, that's kind of the hit in pop culture right now. So far, so good. We're just waiting on the costume, the parade, and we'll see what you guys have to offer.
Yeah, well, it looks like it's going to be a lot of fun. This is our first con here, so we're excited. And of course, like you said, the Star Wars is a big component of that. Now, do you, Dad, read comics yourself too?
I do a little bit. I dabbled as a kid, and now I just need to do some catching up, and my kids are interested too, so I think I'll find my way back into it.
Cool. Well, what were some of your favorites when you were growing up?
I was a big Spider-Man fan and Batman, and I've since passed that to my kids, so they have their favorites that are heavily biased. So,
well, great. Well, I know the contest will be starting soon. I hope you guys have a great time. Thanks for talking to us today.
Thank you.
Okay, so how are you guys enjoying the Comic-Con today?
We got here kind of late, but it's interesting to say the least.
Yeah, well, good. So did you guys know it was happening today? Yes. Oh, okay, cool. So what did you think about it?
Well, I thought about it was, I thought everybody that didn't have costume has to get put on a costume during the costume parade.
Okay.
You're not wearing one?
Oh, but you're wearing a really cool Teen Titans Go shirt. That is awesome. Is that your favorite comic?
Yeah.
Yeah?
I have one of those.
Yeah?
It's called Party.
Yeah?
Yeah, I have one, and it has like a lot of stories with it.
Is that your favorite comic?
Yeah, yes it is.
Cool. What other kind of comics do you like?
Well, I have another Teen Titans Go comic. It was Teen Titans Go number 14, and my sister has all the Starfire comics.
Ooh, that's really cool.
1 through 12.
That's a pretty good collection.
And
She also likes the original Teen Titans.
yeah, which she has all 5 seasons of it and the movie.
Oh, the cartoon, yeah. The cartoon and the actual DC comic.
Wow, she's quite a fan. I remember the original ones really well.
Yeah, she's also a huge Nightwing fan.
Very cool. Very cool.
And she likes Starfire as well.
Yeah.
That's her, I guess. She likes, well, I won't ruin that for her. we don't want to do that. Well, thank you guys for talking with us today. We appreciate it. I hope you have fun with the rest of the convention. I know the parade just wrapped up, but there's still lots of fun stuff. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Okay.
So, how are you guys doing today?
Good.
Good. So, did you guys? You said you guys got to the Comic-Con a little bit late. Did you know it was happening today?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, we came here on purpose.
Okay, great. Well, let me ask you this. This is the most important question. What's your favorite comic?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe Pokemon?
I like Bone, Big Nate.
Ooh, those are both really, really good. Well, let me ask you this. If you could have any superpower in the world, what would you want?
Invisibility.
Oh, cool. Why would you want that?
I don't know.
It'd be cool to be able to kind of move around and not have anybody see you.
Harry Potter.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be really cool. Well, listen, thank you guys for talking with me, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the day, and hope you come back to the library a lot.
Yeah, we like this library. It's nice.
It is nice. All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Andy, that was so interesting. I'm so glad you had the opportunity to talk to actual young readers. It must have been so much fun.
You know, it is, Gwen, and it's one of the great things about doing something like this, and especially since we've been doing the podcast for, as you mentioned, we've been doing it for close to a year. You know, we really haven't had a lot, or at least I haven't, even at the library. I don't usually get into too many conversations with kids about what they're reading and what comic books they like, and even something as goofy as what superpower would you like to have if you had one. You know, so it's kind of cool to talk to them and to hear what they're reading, what's important to them. And I was just blown away by the kid that I asked, "What's your favorite comic?" and he says, "It's the one I just created." I just think that is awesome.
It is. I was so pleased to hear him say that. And it sounds like an interesting comic. So that was great.
Yeah. So maybe we'll see that in the future and maybe talk about it on the Comics Alternative.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, and I do want to encourage parents, if you do have maybe a smaller Comic-Con in your area. I know there's so many Comic-Cons around, and so many of them are huge and overwhelming, and you know there's long lines and things like that. And those cons are great, but take a look in your area to see if there's a smaller con, and maybe even one like we had at our local library. You know, this was a very kid-friendly Comic-Con. We saw a lot of families. Everybody was having a great time. It's just a wonderful experience. Even maybe if you or your children are kind of new to the comic scene, it's a great place to find out about what's going on in the comics world.
Actually, that's true. You know, I was at a smaller comic conference in November, and I was lucky enough to be on a panel about women in comics. But one of the things that I saw happening there, which was really great, was that parents had brought their kids, and the parents were talking to each other about what comics their kids liked. So if you're just introducing your child to comics and you want to know more, it's a great environment to meet other adults who maybe know a little bit more about comics and can point you in the direction of some great selections. So, you know, but Andy, you got really great turnout for your con. You were telling me about that.
Yeah, you know, Gwen, this is the first time that we tried to do a Comic-Con through our library system, and we chose the largest branch, which is the Odenton Regional Library in Odenton, Maryland. And, you know, again, this is the first time we did it. We didn't really know a lot of what we were doing, but
right.
We talked to some people. Yeah, we talked to some people that had done this before, and we would have been delighted if we'd have had 300 or 400 people show up, but we had 2,000 people show up.
That is so amazing.
Yeah, it was just so much fun, and part of the day I was kind of manning a couple of craft stations where kids could make superhero wallets, and they could do superhero bookmarks, and it was on the second floor of the library. So I saw this constant parade of people coming in, and it was almost all families, and that was just so exciting to see.
That is just spectacular. Well, I know you put a lot of work into it, as did a lot of your colleagues. So, yay. That is great. And by the way, do you know that attendance is 0.003% of Maryland's population? So you have done well, my friend.
Wow. Well, and again, my coworkers did way more than I did. I was just happy to be there and to help out in any way that I could. But there were so many people that went way above and beyond, and it was a great time. And we're already planning on how we can do it better next year.
That's great.
Well, we hope you enjoyed those interviews, and I hope you've enjoyed our discussion of the two books that we talked about today, Camp Midnight and Hippopotamister. And when you go to DCB Service or their sister company, In Stock Trades, you will find those and lots of other amazing comics priced at huge discounts. And after you do get your comics there, get in touch with us and let us know what you think about these books. You can contact us by going to our website at comicsalternative.com, and on the right-hand side of your browser, you'll see a tab that reads Send Voicemail. Click on that, and from the comfort of your own desktop or mobile device, you can send us a message through the wonders of SpeakPipe. Or, if you want to call us the old school way, you can pick up the telephone and you can call 415-3-COMICS. That's 415-3266-427. Or you can contact us by email, as Samuel Tier did, at 2guys@comicsalternative.com, or you can get in touch with us individually. I'm Wolverton at comicsalternative.com. And Gwen, how can people reach you?
Well, they can reach me at Gwen, Gwen, at comicsalternative.com. You can also find us on the Twitter, as I like to say, where we announce new content to our podcasts and updates to our blogs. And on Twitter, we are at 2Guys with PhDs.
That's right. You can also find us on Facebook, Tumblr, Instagram, Google+, Goodreads, and Pinterest. And we even have a YouTube channel, so you can access us that way. You can subscribe to the podcast through iTunes, stream us on Stitcher, and you can find us on TuneIn, and you can discover every one of our episodes, as well as our reviews and comics-related commentary on the blog at comicsalternative.com.
And Andy, they can also get in touch with us on Spotify. And I believe it's Google for Android as well now. And so, there are just so many ways. I've joked that I would like to watch someone watching the podcast or listening to the podcast on all 8 or 9 ways. But I was really excited when Spotify came online for us. So that's another way that folks can listen.
Yeah, thank you for reminding me of that, because I was thinking, I'm forgetting something. So thanks for picking up on that. Well, we hope you've enjoyed the show. And until next time, I'm Andy.
And I'm Gwen. See you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.